What's up guys, James here from BootWizard Boot Reviews, and the eagle-eyed among you will have noticed once again that I do not have my regular backdrop. We're still reorganising, but it's fine. We will continue as normal and my lovely boot wall will be back soon. Today we're going to look at what is one of the most popular boot lines of all time. People are still calling for this to come back, they're crazy about it, and for me this particular iteration is the first time we really saw a great leap, a good advancement, and it's the first element, the first release of this boot where I really started to enjoy it. And we're talking about the Adidas F50 Adizero. Now here I have my synthetic pair, and I also have a leather pair which has come from ARF Football. If you didn't catch the original unboxing, they sent me a mystery retro boots box. I had no idea what was in it. It was so much fun, and if you want to check that out, I did it live. Click the link up in the corner. But this is the F50 Adizero with the leather toe box. This is the synthetic. We're going to talk about it, break it down, retro review it, and discuss what the difference is between the two, and should you be really concerned about going for one over the other. Remember to like the video, get subscribed to the channel, and let's break down one of the most iconic boot lines of all time. We'll kick it off with the upper because that's where the biggest difference is between these two boots, and it's not quite as simple as a synthetic upper completely and a leather upper completely, or just a leather toe box. They're actually different in terms of their construction and the way that they fit your feet. So we'll start with the synthetic version, which, surprise, surprise, is fully synthetic. The entire upper is sprint skin with the exception of these orange areas here, which are the Sprint Web Tech. And what they're designed to do is to increase the lockdown and the responsiveness of the boot, because they're thicker and they don't move as much. They're much more rigid. So when you make lateral cuts and you push against that area of the boot, it retains its shape and it pushes back. So the boot ends up feeling very responsive. That sprint skin itself is very thin around the whole boot and offers you a really fantastic barefoot touch on the ball. Now, the synthetic is not the softest in the world, but I always think that that adds to a very pingy sensation in this particular boot, and it also means that you do have that super responsive feeling. It's something I really enjoy about this iteration of the Adizero. Moving into the leather variation, and you can see that much of the back 2/3 of the boot is exactly the same, on the outer at least, because it is. It's all sprint skin, you get the Sprint Web Tech all around here, and it's all there to do the same thing. The toe box area is leather. Now this is less leather than you'd ever got previously on an F50 Adizero model. They're gradually reducing it down, which I always thought was a strange move because the leather, as far as I was aware, was the more popular variant. So to take away the key selling point of that seemed a bit odd, but it is still there. And of course you get that very barefoot, pingy sensation across the upper part of the boot, and then the toe box you get that more padded, more premium vibe from the leather. However, I've never quite seen the huge push towards the leather boot, particularly in this variation, simply because the leather is not of the highest quality. This was not a kangaroo leather, this is a standard grain calf leather that does stretch out quite a lot. And when you take into consideration the fit aspect of this, where the toe box in the leather against the toe box in the synthetic, the leather stretches out more and it's already wider. So I definitely highly recommend this boot to anybody who wants that kind of tight fitting speed boot style feel and vibe from the sole plate, from the upper, but has a wider toe box area and wants something with a little bit more room and feeling a bit more premium. This is going to be perfect for you. The other differences are that the leather variation has a complete synthetic suede liner. It runs the entire length of the boot and it feels very premium, and it adds to that slightly more classy feeling that you get from the leather variation compared to the synthetic. It also has a different tongue. It's like a faux leather tongue with, again, that synthetic backing. What that always meant to me was a more comfortable boot that was going to be more suited to more people. More people were going to enjoy wearing it because it wasn't as extreme, as the synthetic version, which has slim to no liner. It has a structure built in on the inside. It feels very rubbery, and the ping and the barefoot sensation on this boot is definitely better across the boot, no matter the fact that they have the same upper material up in the top 2/3 of the boot. The liner makes this a far more pingy barefoot sensation on the ball, which, like I say, isn't for everybody, but for me and what I wanted, it was always my preference. I mentioned the fit in the toe box of the leather variation being that bit wider and the leather stretching out. It's absolutely not the case with the synthetic. This sprint web also does a good job of holding everything together in that area, making the boot more responsive. So if you have that wider foot, I would go leather, not synthetic, for this particular model. But also be aware that since the origin of the Adizero, they kind of felt and fit the same until we got to this boot, where I do feel it runs a little bit small. So if you are looking to pick up a pair, do be aware that if you go true to size, which is what I've done and I'm happy with it, it's going to be a very tight fit around your feet, and you're going to be right on the limit of what you can take. And it is worth considering going up half a size, not something I recommend with the leather. So weight-wise, it is of course important to do a comparison between the leather and the synthetic, but it is difficult to get an accurate comparison here. These are a size UK 11, and in the leather they are SG, and they are brand new. These have never ever been worn. These are a size UK 8, still in SG in the synthetic, and as you can see, they're very worn. So this is going to have a huge throw on the weight, but we're going to do it anyway and just see how big the difference is. So throwing the synthetics on in the UK 8, it's 217 grams in an SG stud pan. That is a very light boot, like really light in SG. Bear in mind it is very used also. Then we're going to throw the SG on with the leather, and we're at 254 grams. Now some of that comes down to the size, some of it is the leather, but it's basically a heavier boot in the leather, but not to a point where it's detrimental, because even at that weight in an SG boot, it's still very light. You pick up a lot of much heavier SG boots these days, and we can compare it even to an SG Predator 20.1, and that's coming in at 270 grams, so it's lighter than a Predator 20.1 from 2020. So don't worry about weight if you're looking for a lightweight boot. These are both great options. So we've got sprint web, we've got sprint skin, so why not a sprint frame, which is what the sole plate is built on. So you get this sprint frame with the miCoach insert available there. So this was a device of technology that Adidas introduced where you could insert a little chip into the sole plate of your shoe and it would track your running and things like that, give you statistics. It was something that was cool for about 5 minutes till everybody stopped wearing it. This particular sprint frame outsole is fundamentally the same as what we have on the modern day X-Line with the speed frame. They just changed the name. But the sensation, the feeling, the materials, it's all basically the same. And you can say exactly that about the stud pattern as well. So this is the SG, but the FG stud pattern on this and the FG stud pattern that you get on the current X19 Plus, the X19.1, is the same. And I would have absolutely no worries about wearing this boot with this sole plate today, which is crazy to think that we go back so far and we're going, actually, this is still top end and would perform in today's market. I would not complain about this in the slightest. Traction's your game, and you want an older Adizero, never worry about the sole plate and stud pattern. It is going to do a good job. It's the same on the leather and the synthetic, so there's no difference here at all. Looks wise, I do slightly prefer the synthetic just because it is more consistent all the way across the boot, and I like the way that the sprint web actually runs around the front, and it is beneficial in doing that. The leather though doesn't look bad at all, and I think the 2012 Adizero as a whole is a really good looking boot. This particular colorway was for the Euros in 2012, which makes it kind of more iconic. Anything for a World Cup or a Euros I always think is more iconic, and I think that this is one of the best ones that they did come out with for me. It's pretty bright, but I really like it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Synthetic or leather. Value for money, we've already spoken about how revered the F50 Adizero is, and I think from this generation onwards especially are still fantastic boots that definitely perform in today's market and are definitely worth picking up. To pick up a brand new pair like this pair from ARF Football, you can expect to pay between £100 and £160. Maybe towards the top end if you are looking at something that's completely unused, tags, stickers, everything like that. If it's a pair that's just going to be there and they're claiming it's unused, maybe around 100. You can pick up second-hand pairs a lot cheaper, but be wary. It's an old boot, it'll probably have had a lot of use, and if you do get it very cheap, you do want to look out for things like cracks in the sole plate and things like that. I already covered much of the on-feet information of the boot, so the leather version has that wider toe box and do expect it to stretch. The synthetic version does not, and I find it runs a little bit small as well. Width-wise, both boots are going to accommodate most people. They have a standard tongue construction, there's no one-piece upper, and no matter what the width of your foot, as long as it's not crazy, you should be able to get into these boots. There is some reshaping and changing on these compared to the previous generations, and it does make the fit 100 times better. And that's why I always recommend going for this generation and newer, because the fit is so much better than what you got on the older models, especially around the heel area. Comfort-wise, when these were new, most pairs came with two sets of insoles, a comfort insole and a thinner, lighter, more pointless insole. So if you're buying them now, expect to get the comfort insole, mainly because most people just use that exclusively, as the other one was just not as nice to wear, despite the fact that it shaved off some weight. That does lead to an overall more comfortable boot in both variations, but the comfort is better in the leather variation for me, without question, even though they're very similar boots. Neither of them are uncomfortable, but I wouldn't expect to get the lovely slipper-like comfort that you get out of many boots in the synthetic version, because that's just not the type of boot it is. And if you're buying it, it's probably not the type of boot you're looking for either. Overall, I think that this is the best F50 Adizero that was released up to this time, and in terms of a boot that you could rock in 2020, I think this is absolutely still an option. It would hold its own with almost every boot that's out there in leather or synthetic. It's all about your personal preference. There's not really one that's better than the other. Let's start a fight down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Should they bring back the Adizero in this form, or should they stick with the X? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Remember to like this video and get subscribed so that you can pick up all of my future content. We post 3 times a week, and if you do want to pick up some incredible value retro boots, then head over to ARF Football on Instagram, where you can pick up amazing things like this at great prices. But that's all from me here today. Have a good one, and I'll see you soon.